Let's execute an immediate high-gear tactical vector shift away from the modern occult history archives of Salem, ancient genetic magic lineages, and the academic Gothic defense frameworks of the All Soul series, and plunge directly into the cold, calculation-heavy tracking grids of elite, cutthroat fantasy academy dynamics, reverse harem romantic friction, and the deeply protective world of high-stakes competitive power structures. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, grand training arenas of a dark magical institution, exclusive high society noble houses, and the lethal analytical parameters of a highly determined heroine facing down a ruthless system of institutional filtering, with Relever, the exceptional pulse-pounding fourth structural deployment anchoring the globally dominant chart-topping Ironside Academy series by the absolute undisputed sovereign of intense reverse harem fantasy, complex interpersonal chemistry, and high-velocity emotional suspense, Jane Washington. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers a thrilling look at an operational crossroads where a fierce, underestimated academy asset, a powerful network of elite male protectors, and an absolute defense of a student's personal sovereignty metrics collide at terminal velocity. Let's lay out the strategic narrative grid. If you are a fan of high-octane, slow-burn romantic fantasy thrillers, where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of academy politics, high-stakes combat examinations, and a deadly ring of active administrative gaslighting while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised academic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep interpersonal profiling, calculated environmental manipulation, and absolute psychological stamina to outmaneuver an invisible upper-class predatory syndicate, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, ruthless testing unearthing a lethal institutional conspiracy diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural survival perimeters, this book is engineered to lock you in. Washington completely dominates the dark academy poly-romance dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating institutional paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Carolyn Peckham and Suzanne Valenti, Tate James, J.B. Salisbury, and Raven Kennedy, while treating realistic training logistics, complex romantic tension structures, and protective magical combat tradecraft grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on the volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of Isabel, the uniquely burdened protagonist operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of massive social disadvantage, intense academy hazing protocols, and a hyper-visible targeting profile by the institution's ruling elites. Behind her rigorous training footprints and tense classroom logs lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried emotional secrets, and sharp, high-stakes political maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of outrunning exploitation, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from rival students, parsing complex behavioral shifts from her powerful inner circle of male guardians, and shielding her vulnerable personal autonomy nodes from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless corporate or academic cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. As the elite academy's testing phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier, a series of suspicious sabotage attempts, targeted administrative setups, and calculation-heavy arena ambushes threaten to permanently eliminate her from the academy roster. The official diagnostic metrics of the Institutional Tracking Center flash white-hot when Isabel's interrogation sequences and arena performances reveal that her inner power and alignment are radically impossibly altering the school's historical power of power. The standard boundaries of routine academic rivalries and peaceful training protocols crumble, and our central protagonist runs completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. She is thrust directly into an active invisible war across the campus, where deceptive noble houses, highly manipulative faculty instructors, and a calculation-heavy underground syndicate launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her advancement data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as her historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the grand lecture halls, dark training grounds, and private noble estates into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our veteran survivalist protagonist is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, environmental mapping skills, and raw emotional stamina to maintain her perimeter before the next competitive elimination phase permanently deletes her progress. When deceptive romantic red herrings, corrupted arena parameters, and calculation-heavy physical ambushes launch aggressive play
place to delete her path. Her survival instincts engage her final deployment tracks. Every midnight library excavation, every silent choice to stand off against an arrogant high-ranking noble behind standard training barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the elite academy's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Washington reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an exam or managing interpersonal romance. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of institutional hierarchy and aristocratic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective web of loyalty around our central heroine. A brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a dark academy fantasy, reverse harem romance, institutional suspense, and high-velocity contemporary noir, masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one-whispered confession triggers a fatal arena showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active group tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes courtyard confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite faction leader has completely mapped your personal team coordinates carries massive structural weight. Washington writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the cold metallic clang of training blades, the oppressive, heavy atmosphere of an elite testing pavilion before a combat trial, and the distinct subtle scent of polished leather, ozone, burning incense, expensive fabric, pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this fourth franchise entry into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex multi-character reverse harem dynamics and genuine high-stakes fantasy academy tradecraft, alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and aristocratic underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. Relever is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes reverse harem fantasy and dark academy suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unputtable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So, secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the academy.